Everything is good until it's not, and everything works until it doesn't. This is No Singular Solutions. Welcome to the No Singular Solutions podcast. I'm Joshua Hoyt, and this is what you get. My home office, you might get a little bit of background noise. We've got some new equipment, so we're just kind of rolling with it. Little change to today as well. There's video. So for those of you who are following along on the appropriate or your preferred choice of podcasting platforms, you will see some video with this, and it'll be a little bit different. So we're just going to kind of keep adjusting and reacting to feedback and things that people are telling us about the show. And the effort is to make it as authentic as possible. And in staying with that theme, today's episode is about authenticity. Now, in previous episodes, I said how my intention in creating this podcast was to help you with your self-awareness and your self-discovery. And it's about how you can be authentically impactful. So here's how you can help. Continue listening. Share this podcast with anyone that you know or you feel could benefit from it. Please go into like Apple, for example, and leave a review. Download episodes. Follow the show on whatever platform we're currently on: Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Audacity, and Amazon Music. So we're trying to get to all the platforms for everybody. But again, I said today's episode is about authenticity. What does that mean? What does it mean to be authentic? Well, first, it's being genuine. You have to know yourself. Being authentic is really understanding yourself, listening to that inner voice. It's understanding your feelings. It's facing the reality of who you are today, not who you're going to be going forward, but who you are today. And that means embracing your flaws. Authentic is like a confession with yourself. It's who I am up here. It's who I am here in my head, in my heart. It's how I show up for other people. And like with me in this podcast, the guy that you know on the street, the guy that you've seen at community events, the guy that serves this community in an elected capacity is the same guy that you hear on this podcast. And that is being authentic. People know when they hear this podcast, regardless what the content is, they know that that's the same Joshua Hoyt that shows up most days, we'll say, right? But it's the same guy. That's authenticity. Is authenticity inherently something that we have, or is it learned? I believe it is something that's learned. I believe it's something that every one of us can work on if we feel it's important. If we think that showing up and being authentic is important and it matters, which I believe it does, then you make the choice to start to work on your self-awareness, your self-discovery, not just all the good stuff. Embrace your flaws, embrace your imperfections, embrace the suck of your life, basically. Embrace it. I'm not saying that you have to go out and publicly share all of your stuff. You know, previous episodes are about attitude and vulnerability and confidence. You don't have to open Pandora's box. I'm in a position with a platform currently. I have reach, and I understand the importance of me personally, being vulnerable and being open and sharing that. The feedback that I continue to get from people, whether they're listening to the podcast or they're seeing my mental health post lately, is unbelievable. You guys, this is unbelievable. These messages that I'm getting are everything from, I needed this today. I needed to hear the attitude post, or I needed to hear the attitude podcast. I went back and I listened to it over and over again. It's how I start my day. People telling me things like, I reached out for mental health support because I saw your post. I've been battling demons for a long time. I've been keeping it in my head, and because of what you're telling publicly, I had the confidence to go out and start on my personal journey. That is unbelievable. Like, that is why I started doing this, is to really be the most authentic version of myself, to share my story and get my stuff out there, and to try and help you along the way. And it's working. So I say thank you. Please continue sharing. Again, the more people that we can reach. I'm not a clinician. I'm not a doctor, right? This is not professional medical advice. This is a guy's opinion, his perspective, his insight based on his experience and the lessons that I've learned, like my failures. And if I can utilize the things that I was not best at and the lessons that I learned throughout to benefit and help you, then it makes all of this worth it. Yes, that's what I want to do. So let's talk about authenticity. Let's talk about how it affects your personal life and your professional life. Let's give you some tools, again, some additional perspective on how you can be the most authentic person you are. It starts with self-reflection. It starts with sitting back and really assessing who you are, how you show up. Am I crabby? Am I over the hills, happy, full of joy? Like, what is my attitude? What is my outlook? How do I see others? If what's going on in my head doesn't align with my actions, that's not authentic. So and I use the scenario all the time of opening a door for somebody. If somebody opens a door in front of you and you do it only because they did, nice gesture, but that's in response to another behavior. It's not saying that you're not authentic in wanting to help that person, but there's a big difference between not thinking about it and then reacting to the situation versus just it's so ingrained in who you are and your character that I might be 10 steps ahead of the person that I know is behind me, but I'm going to stop and go out of my way to open the door and allow them to come through. I'm going to smile. I'm going to greet them, say good morning. I hope you're having a great day. Something. I consciously go out of my way to do that because that's the most authentic version of myself. I could go through that door. I'd probably hit the second or third door before the person behind me ever made it to the first one. The point is, I want to impact others in a positive way. That's authenticity. Telling it like it is something you hear often. Opinion-based in a lot of cases. However, if what's going on in my head, if the thoughts that I have and the way that I'm processing things is not what's coming out of my mouth, that's not authentic. If I look and I smile at you and I go, yeah, thank you for the thing, but I'm grumbling under my breath, you're being authentic with yourself that you're not sincere, right? See the conundrum there? Like, if that's who you really are, then you're giving a fake, you're giving a false confidence to someone else, or you're conveying a false happiness to someone else. You can be authentically a POS if you want. Like, that's your choice. I choose authenticity that embraces my traits and characteristics and my moral compass and my values. I hope that didn't confuse anyone there as I said that, but the effects of your personal and professional life. Personally, being authentic will help you establish healthy boundaries. Family, close personal friends, like I'll call it the inner circle, and then you have the secondary circle. When you're authentic and you're in full control, or you've got a full grasp of everything that you're thinking and how you're showing up and how you're projecting yourself, when you have that, I believe you're able to set healthy boundaries. The other person and their ability to set a healthy boundary in that relationship. So just say, like, you and your best friend, there are certain things that you're not going to talk about, right? We'll say it's something political. You disagree. The healthy boundary might be that we're not going to talk about politics because we know we disagree and we're just going to end up arguing. If you're authentic, my opinion, if you're authentic with who you are, that healthy boundary, it's going to work because I'm showing up as the person that I really am. I'm not going to show up as the person that just agrees with my friend, or, gives them the, oh yeah, I understand, or sure, that makes sense. You're pandering them, right? You're just kind of filling the space. To me, that's not authentic. Like, I would rather you be able to show up and say, here, we agree on a lot of things and we're great friends. However, we disagree on this thing. And because I value our friendship, I don't want to talk about, fill in the subject here. I don't want to talk about that because I know that that makes this really uncomfortable, and we're never going to be on the same, as of today, we're not on the same page. Like, to me, that's being authentic. That's being genuine. That's being sincere. That's telling them that, hey, I value our relationship, but I know that there's this conflict that we have, and that makes me uncomfortable, and that could compromise our relationship. So I don't want to have that. To me, that's authenticity. In your professional life, this shows up all over for me. If you go and we'll just say a business, right? If you go and you transact with someone, if you're just doing it for money, like, that could be the authentic version of you. You really don't care about the service or the impact that it has to that business or its customers or its clients. You could just care about money. That's being authentically true to yourself about what your priorities are, or what your values are, or what drives you. Conversely, if money isn't important and you really value the customer transaction, but all of a sudden money makes it way more exciting. Like, you're there for the mission, but then the money is really good. So you start doing it for the money instead of the mission. And we see this happen in businesses all the time. It's called losing their way. They get in doing a product or service with a mission based cause, and then the profitability gets to a point where that exceeds the desire to continue to be value based or sincere on your the reason why you're in business, and it turns into profit driven decision making. That's not authenticity. And I know, as I've said that, and you really start to think about that, you'll see that in a lot of places. There's a lot of businesses out there that will claim, or they make the statement, X amount of proceeds are donated to said cause, but you never see the money donated. There's like no campaign around it. Um, there's companies that I've worked with before, not worked for, but I've worked with or transacted with, that say that, yeah, 10% of all proceeds go to this thing, this cause. Okay, where are your receipts? That's not authentic. That's misleading, borderline illegal. But that's one example in your professional life. The other part is like when you have a coworker or someone that you might say you work side by side, your same position in the company, and you're both vying for a promotion. You don't get the promotion. If you're authentic with yourself and your true feelings come out, most people would say, well, maybe I wasn't as experienced. Maybe they were more qualified in this situation. Maybe they were just the better choice. Maybe I just blew up the interview that day, and I didn't do my best, or I didn't show up the way that I could have or should have. But you'll blame it on something. It's, oh, they know somebody, or oh, they're just best friends with the hiring manager or the general manager or something. You'll make up excuses. That's not being authentic. Not to yourself, not to your business, not to the situation, not to your coworker that, by the way, you probably still have to work with. So think about that. Like, really think about how authenticity can affect both your personal and your professional lives. And they matter. It really matters how you show up. As I was saying earlier, like Joshua Hoyt, who you see is who you get. All the good, all the bad. You get all the imperfections, you get all the flaws, but you get the tenacity, the grit, the drive, the passion. You get all of it. And who I am on the podcast is who I am in real life. It's who I am in my personal relationships. It's who I am in my professional relationships. Like, I have been very intentional to show up the same way for as long as I can. I've gotten better at it. I definitely sucked at it at many points in my life. But to me, authenticity is just, it's so, at this point in my life, it's to a point where I don't really even have to think about it anymore. That's the mastery for me. And I embrace that. Um, let's talk about social media, for example. Social media to me has the power to be the most authentic tool or platform or resource that I've ever experienced in my life, because it's an ability to take whatever you want, good or bad, and to put it into a platform. Again, I'm talking about all of them: Facebook, X, Instagram, all of them, everything, YouTube, podcasting. That's all, to me, that's all media, social media, right? You have the ability to put anything you want there and drive engagement. People can see it, they can comment on it, they can share their perspective or insights. Um, they can use it as learning tools, but it's inputs equal outputs. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. If what you put into it is fake, like, who are you doing that for? If what you put into it is not authentic, then who are you doing that for? Like, that's the litmus test. That's the ultimate litmus test, because it's like the storyboard of highlights. It's the highlight reel. It's the top 10 plays of the week, right? We know there are a lot of people that use it that way, that maybe for them it helps build their self-confidence. It's like, I see these people living this great life and doing this great thing and traveling and sharing all their great stuff. And I feel compelled to have to do the same thing, or I'm just trailing behind, or it's not relatable, or I don't have a good life, like whatever it is. There's this quote unquote keeping up with the Joneses mentality. So someone will post or put content out and it's, wow, amazing, all the things. And for the average person, they see that and they go, oh, that's really cool. I'm happy for them. I'm proud, all the stuff. And then they're compelled to want to do the same. But there's people within a circle of the one that posted that's like, I know what's really going on. Like, they make it look like it's all great, but at the same time, that's all a facade. Like, they're train wrecks behind the scenes. And I was that person for a long time. Not that, I'm not a boaster. I have never been a boaster. It's not about the material stuff. It's not about like, hey, here's my vacation. I hope you can go on one, or like trying to show people, hey, look at me, look at this lifestyle, whatever it is. For me, it's like, it's optimism, right? You try to put it out there so that people see that, they see happiness, they see joy. But there are times that I've posted stuff or I've put content on social media that I'm just like, oh, that's not me. Like, it's not me. And I really struggled with it. But I didn't take it down. I didn't really change it at the time. I didn't edit it, do all the stuff. I kind of fell in rank and file with how social media works. And then when I got elected, I realized, well, there's a whole different layer to this. There's a whole different layer to social media and your presence. And I got elected based on who I was and how I showed up, the reputation that I had, hard work, trust, all the stuff. But then you have that layer of, okay, well, you're there to represent the entire community, not just a percentage or not your personal ambition. But people see things right away and they go, oh, that's not what you should be saying, or that's not what you should be doing. And you hear that and it comes at you at lightning speed. It's like drinking out of a fire hose. And you start to kind of shift a little bit from who you are, because your intention is to do it from the right place for the right reasons, to reach as many people as possible and to help as many people as possible. But it doesn't always reach the audience the way it was intended, authentically intended. But then you start to, again, I like to use the word pander. You start to kind of shape things, like you won't say certain words, or you won't talk about certain things because it's going to be blowback from a small percentage of people. And you start to kind of fall into that. It's just human nature, right? We're creatures of habit. It's pure influence. It's all the things that are happening around us. My point in that is how you did it yesterday, and not just social media. I'm talking life and how you show up. How you did it yesterday is not how you have to do it today. And it sure as heck is not how you are going to do it tomorrow, because that's your choice. I choose authenticity. I choose to be the most genuine version of myself. And for those that are following along in this podcast or even listening now, it's most likely because you've seen this major shift with me in the last, we'll say 3 to 6 months. I used to talk about mental health in the context of suicide awareness and suicide prevention. I used to talk about mental health from the end result, not from the proactive, um, not from the proactive position of mental health and physical health. Mental health is always there. It's always present. It's whether you have good mental health or you have poor or bad mental health. Poor and bad mental health inevitably can lead to things like self-harm, substance abuse, and ultimately, suicidal tendencies and death. That can. And that's where my mental health used to be. It wasn't until, and I advocated strongly for it. It's still a bad thing, absolutely. But I advocated from a down the line position. As I really got authentic with myself and I really leaned into what I felt was most important, and it was the importance of mental health and how we can talk about all the things, all the topics, and I can share them from my perspective and my journey, I realized I'm not being authentic about what mental health really is to me. I'm not, I know the confident stuff. I know how to be compassionate. I know sincerity. My mental health, I know what's good and I know how I have to show up and how I want to show up. But the reality is there were so many things that have been pulling me down for so long that my mental health starts to decline. And I put that face on and I'm not being authentic. And in January is when it hit me like a truck. That's when a lot of things were going on in my life and really transitioning into the next phase. And I didn't know what that looked like. But when that happened, that January 26th, when it was just God said, now you're ready. That's when it hit me. That's when I'm now I'm ready to be the most authentic version of myself. Now I am ready to, who cares what anybody else ever thinks? That's my mentality now is I don't care because I'm not doing it. I'm not doing all of this. I'm not talking about mental health. I'm not wearing my emotions on my sleeve. I'm not opening up, being vulnerable, and doing all this for anybody other than myself. This is how I can be the most authentic version of myself. And by doing that, other people are resonating with the message. So it's directly helping people. To me, that's the most authentic way that I can show up. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. I will continue to make mental health content or put mental health content out. I'll continue to do keynotes. I'll continue to talk to any group, help any way I can. I'll continue to make podcast episodes and just drive home all of the topics that I know you're thinking about, all of them. And we're going to go deep. We're going to go into a lot of them. We're going to hit a lot of them at 10,000 foot view. Previously we talked about attitude, talked about vulnerability, we talked about confidence, now authenticity. We're going to get into all the uncomfortable stuff. Grief and forgiveness, growth mindset, resiliency, adaptability, teamwork, communication, healthy boundaries, toxicity, purpose, vision. We're going to get into all of it. We'll start high level and just kind of we'll dabble a little bit with some guests and really start to build some content. And then as we get more feedback from our listeners, as my guests continue to grow in numbers, we're going to go deeper and deeper into those conversations. Remember, this is from my perspective and my guests. It's from our experience. We're not doctors. This is not meant to be or intended to be professional medical advice. I know what I'm not. But if I can help you in your journey of self-awareness and self-discovery, then it makes everything worthwhile. So let's wrap up here on authenticity. You have let me back up. Authenticity is being genuine. It's being secure with who you are, like knowing yourself. It's listening to your inner voice. It's understanding your feelings. It's facing your truth. And your truth might be that you're not authentic, that you're not showing up the way that maybe you think you can show up or how you need to show up. When you start to become the most authentic version of yourself, no matter what that looks like, embrace it. Embrace it. It is what makes you unique. It is what makes you the one of one in the entire world. When you embrace everything, it's not just your physical appearance, it's not just your attitude, your mental health, it's everything. It's your experiences, it's your past, it's your trauma, it's your success. It's all the good things that have happened to you, it's all the bad things that have happened to you that have turned you into this perfectly unique one of one version of you. When you embrace that for what it is, you are being the most authentic version of yourself. Now continue to do it moving forward. You're going to make people really uncomfortable. Trust me. I know this. I make people very uncomfortable because I am authentic in my own unique way. Whether it's an insecurity issue, whatever it is, you're going to make the people around you uncomfortable. Be prepared for that. It's part of the journey. Like, people are going to get really uncomfortable. Your coworkers are going to get uncomfortable. Your family's going to get uncomfortable. Your inner circle could get really uncomfortable because you're going to start showing up as someone that they've never seen before or never experienced that way. And it could be threatening to them. Be prepared for that. That's a word of encouragement, to be prepared, because that was a blind spot for me. But I'm okay with it. I would rather have a circle of 5 that are the most authentic that we can be than to have a circle of 25 that are like halfway there. I want authenticity. I want the most authentic version of you. I want genuine, sincere, even with your flaws, even in your disagreements. That's what I want. That's my circle. That's the people that I want closest to me, that I can trust, that I can protect, that I can do all the things for. That's kind of a hard cliff to leave on there, but I hope that makes sense. I hope that provides some insight to some things that are very unique and specific to me. I hope that you found that to be both insightful and informative at the same time. That's my intention, is to continue to provide information, provide perspective that is both informative and insightful. Before I get going here, we're coming up on the 30-minute mark. Again, trying a couple of things new here. So we're rolling with video. We've got some new equipment, playing with the audio and the intros and stuff. So this isn't going to sound quite like previous episodes, but hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you for listening. Above all, I believe in you. I believe that you can become the best version of yourself, and I'm here to help you. I appreciate you for listening. I appreciate you for showing up and supporting the podcast, for supporting me in my journey, and I'm here to help you in any way possible. Utilizing any resources that I have, just feel free to reach out. You can contact me through all my social media handles. Everything is Joshua Hoyt 17, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, all the goods. Follow along on my website as well. It's nosingular-solutions.com. There's a podcast tab in there. You can see all the episodes will be backed up there. Let me know how I can be helpful. I'm here to help in any possible way. Cue outro. This is No Singular Solutions.